Yeah, thank you very much, Katrin. We will keep you updated on that developing story in Soweto, of course. Widespread looting's taking place. It's very tense there. Hopefully a little bit later in the show, we'll be able to give you a complete update. But, of course, matters at hand. Earlier this week, we were joined by the South African Jewish Board of Deputies who believe that the Boycott Disinvestment and Sanctions movement is sending the worst possible message to South Africans by bringing notorious freedom fighter Leila Khaled to the country as its guests next month. Now, today, we invited the National Director of the Jewish Board of Deputies, Wendy Kahn, back to the show, and we're also joined by BDS coordinator Muhammed Desai. Good morning, guys.
Hi, Evan.
We're going to keep it cordial today, guys.
I left the boxing gloves at home.
Okay, that's great, because, you know, this is let's have this discussion and let's keep our responses to around a minute, if we can, per issue. I want to start with you, Muhammed. The criticisms that you've received, just give us your view as to the decision to bring Leila Khaled to South Africa.
Okay, well, two things just to start off. The first is happy birthday to you, Evan.
Oh, thank you very much, Muhammed. Yes, it is my birthday. At my age, you don't really talk much about it.
Sorry about that. But the second thing is that before I say anything about BDS, South Africa's intention, as an organization, we really would like to reach out to the various organizations such as the South African Students' Congress, the YCL, the ANC Youth League, the ANC, COSATU, as well as various other unions, including various deputy ministers, and ANC and government officials that have all come out supporting Leila Khaled's upcoming visit. The head of ANC's International Relations, Deputy Minister Obed Bapela, will be sharing a stage with Leila Khaled when she's in this country, and the outpouring of support from the masses of our people is very humbling for somebody like Leila Khaled. So that's an acknowledgement to the people out there that have supported the bringing down of Leila Khaled. But this is not the first time that Leila Khaled is coming to South Africa. She's been here in the past. She's been here in 2006 for a wonderful documentary that the Encounters Film Festival had hosted. But she was also hosted at various rallies and by various government officials and anti-apartheid icons. This time around, Ahmed Katrada, for example, has asked for a private meeting at Lily's Farm, one of the anti-apartheid sites, to have a meeting with Leila Khaled to consult on various issues. And so there's a deep history between the South African struggle and the Palestinian struggle, and also between the leaders of the Palestinian movement and the South African movement. And this is a connection that is going to be coming out through Leila Khaled's visit to this country.
Now, Wendy, we heard your views a little bit earlier this week. I just want you to take a look at some of the pictures of the previous visit. It was an official welcoming. And then if you can give a response to what Muhammad has said, and also you can talk over the pictures while our director, Johan, plays it. But your response to these pictures, which was the official welcome the last time around, and then, of course, the comments made by Muhammad just now.
Yeah, I think in this country we welcome so many different people, and I think we do know that she was here before. We're in a situation at the moment globally that our global democracy is actually being threatened by terrorism. We have seen the most heinous acts over the last few weeks. We have seen situations of 2,000 people a couple of weeks ago in Nigeria being butchered and murdered through acts of terrorism. Individuals, civilians being targeted for no other reason but to instill fear in people around the world. We have seen the Paris massacres where people merely for their views or merely because they were Jewish were butchered and murdered. And this is a time when the world is sitting up and saying we need to take a very, very powerful stance against terrorism. We need to, as a global community, stand up and take a stance. And for our country to be welcoming, and certainly for BDS to be welcoming this woman who exemplifies terrorism, and let's be honest, and I did mention it before, it's not just the hijacking of the aeroplanes where she had grenades on her and put the fear of whatever into the passengers who were there, but they're the recent incidents that have happened in 2011 where the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine went into a home and butchered a family of 5, mother, father, 3 children, decapitating a baby. These are the values that we want to bring to South Africa. These are the kind of messages that BDS wants to put out. This is the kind of value system that we want to instill.
Muhammed, your response to that?
Well, it's a bit like saying that cable theft today is similar to the sabotage attacks of the MK or of the ANC during the 1980s. One can't really compare cable theft today to a liberation struggle that was sabotaging an apartheid regime. Likewise, the Palestinian resistance to Israeli apartheid and Israeli oppression cannot, should not, and is being deceptively compared to terrorism, which we all condemn. We condemn fully as BDS South Africa the attacks in Paris, the horrendous crimes being committed by Boko Haram in Nigeria, and the various other terrorist activities throughout the world. So we're in agreement actually with the Jewish Board of Deputies. I think where we may find disagreement is that whereas the majority of the world, with our world leaders such as Archbishop Desmond Tutu or Jimmy Carter, the former president of the USA, all calling Israel's form of occupation illegal and a crime against humanity, the Jewish Board of Deputies is refusing to take the right side of history, refusing to join the world's population in condemning the kind of crimes being committed against the defenseless people of Palestine. We would like to see the Jewish Board of Deputies condemning the attacks on Paris, and in the same breath condemning the attacks on Gaza last year, which resulted in the killing of over 2,000 Palestinian civilians, of which 500 being children under the age of 16 years old. These are horrendous crimes which we think the board should join us in condemning.
I think we need to draw a distinction between war situations and civilian targets. I think in a war situation, you have civilians that are casualties of war. It is tragic. And I think,
isn't this a global war?
Am I not allowed to finish as
don't take it personally. I'm just asking
I just want to
isn't
finish.
This a global war?
It is a global war against terrorism. And I think that we need to draw the distinction between war situations where there are civilian casualties and situations where civilians are deliberately targeted, such as and I think we need to, Muhammad just made the point that yes, this was a long time ago that she was involved in the ANC, long time ago, so no. 2 months ago, this organization went into a synagogue and they took axes and they murdered 4 rabbis who were praying. They were simply, may I finish? I allowed you to finish. They went in there. She has made it very clear, Leila Khaled, that she said, it was in May last year, she said very clearly, she said there are different types of resistance. I am choosing resistance around violence. She made it very clear. Her organization, over many decades, they've been into a school in Israel a few decades ago. They butchered 28 students in that school.
I think
that's the kind of person you're bringing to South Africa. Those are the kind of messages.
Let's move the discussion on. Let's not talk about we killed so many and you killed so many. Let's talk about the situation of...
That's what she's coming here to do.
Let's talk about the war that you're talking about. You're talking about a war situation.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Explain to me, how do you perceive this war, and how do you then perceive war crimes committed during this war?
Absolutely. When war happens, there is suffering on both sides, and certainly in Protective Edge, we saw the most horrific suffering on both sides. And I think what needs to happen now is there needs to be an independent body that comes in, that looks at what happened. There's so much speculation. I think you raised a couple of ideas the last time we met. There's been so many people coming with their views on we need facts, we need investigators to go in, and that's what the United Nations is doing at present. But until we have that, and yes, we condemned the war.
Can we give Muhammed a chance to have a go?
Look, Auntie Wendy, let me sorry, it's affectionate way that people speak in our culture. But look, Ms. Kahn, I'm glad firstly that you raised the issue of the synagogue last year. From the Israeli police investigation reported in the New York Times, the chief Israeli police investigator concluded that the attacks weren't carried out by any political party or due to any political instruction, but in the words of the Israeli police investigator, it was carried out by a lone attacker. Now, let us see what Israel did after that lone attacker was killed. Israel then demolished the house of the family, the widow, of this lone attacker, in the words of the police investigator. It destroyed the entire house of the family and then carried out mass repression activities in September 2014 by revoking residency permits to Palestinians living in Jerusalem, and also by revoking the ability of Palestinians to renovate their houses and to further constructions onto their houses. And in a really sick action, Israel refused to allow the bodies of those two people, those two lone attackers, in the words of the Israeli police investigator, to be returned to their families. Now, we know the returning of bodies to our people, the burying of our people is such an important part of our culture. This is the kind of collective punishment that is being practiced by Israel. But I agree with you and with Ibn. We need to move beyond this. So Israel attacked Gaza. These were many people were killed. The Palestinians attacked the Israelis, etc. We need to go to the root cause of this problem. The great Brazilian philosopher, who you may not have read, Paulo Freire, talks about how the violence, the initial violence is that of oppression. All other violence is a reaction to that root cause, that root oppression. Now, what is the root cause here? The root cause is the Israeli state being created, the modern Israeli state being created in 1948 at the expense of the indigenous Palestinians. What is the way forward? Let us talk about the way forward, and let us be inspired by the South African struggle. Perhaps, Ibn, perhaps, Ms. Kahn, that a joint future for Palestinians and Israelis living together like us in South Africa live with our former oppressors is possible.
I think, firstly, I should say that the Popular Front, we do need to measure, they did congratulate the murder of the rabbis. We do need to just say that. But I do want to. Can we move on from that? I just did need to clarify that. But I do agree with Muhammad that we need to take the experience of South Africa and we need to share that with the Israelis and the Palestinians. And last year we had an amazing meeting with Mahmoud Abbas when he was in South Africa, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. And these were the kind of issues that we spoke about, the need for negotiation, the need for the parties to come together, to understand each other's insecurities, to find ways that we can move forward. And that certainly is what we at the Jewish Board of Deputies are looking for. We don't believe that boycotts and punitive action and hosting terror convicted hijackers is going to make any difference. All it does is polarize.
You mentioned now that we have to move forward.
Yes.
That's what you said.
So what I'm saying is, because we're here to discuss Leila Khaled coming here.
That's why I'm asking you, would you meet, if you want to move forward, would you meet with someone, as the Jewish Board of Deputies in South Africa, would you meet with Leila Khaled if there was an opportunity when she was here? If you are really honest about moving forward and building this dream, are you willing to do that?
I believe that somebody who consistently calls for violence is not somebody that can contribute to a solution in the Middle East.
Ms. Kahn,
I think that we need to find...
Do you subscribe to international law?
All you do is you put people into corners.
Do you agree to international law?
Of course I agree with international law.
Do you know that under international law, all people are given the right, the human right, to take up armed struggle in defense of their self-determination? Are you aware of this? Not by identifying civilians, innocent civilians, a 3-month-old baby to decapitate. That is a violation of international law. I'm asking another question. I'm asking whether you agree with international law, A, and B, whether you agree with armed struggle being taken up by oppressed populations according to international law.
Not when it's targeting innocent civilians that are not
civilians. I said armed struggle.
Not when it's
Unfortunately, that's where we have to leave it. It seems as if we are going to have some great difficulty moving forward here. If we are honest, and if we are truthful to ourselves about peace, there comes a point where you have to look your enemy in the eye and you have to start a dialogue, even if you dislike what your enemy has done. Palestine and BDS have disliked what Israel has done, and so have the Jewish Board of Deputies. I don't see them engaging with Israel. I don't see them opening their arms and wanting dialogue. Ms. Kahn, here's an invite. There's an invite. Here's an invite from BDS South Africa, a genuine and a deep invite. The Jewish Board of Deputies was on the wrong side of history during apartheid. You have the chance to be on the right side of history. We're back to the race card. Whenever BDS gets a little bit anxious... Okay, not everybody can have a last word. Thank you very much for joining us today, guys. Unfortunately, it seems as if this is a war that will be fought into eternity. It seems as we can't seem to forget.